Hello, I'm Liz, one of Dariet's reference librarians, and welcome to another episode of Misinformation Busters. Once a week, we tackle a rumor or false, misunderstood information and try to separate fact from fiction. This week, we're talking about something that seems like an everyday occurrence for us up here in New Hampshire, but was causing a lot of concern for residents in many major cities. I'm talking about fireworks. So what's the story? Well, if you've been paying attention to the news, it has been a strange and eventful summer. A majority of major events have been canceled due to COVID. Officials are trying to resume normal society in phases, and cities have seen massive protests against inequality and police brutality. And then in June, fireworks started going off, particularly in minority neighborhoods. This seems innocuous to New Hampshire residents, but if you're in New York, this is extremely out of the ordinary. And since it came at a time of uprising and high tensions with law enforcement, conspiracy theories started to fly. Mainly that the police are either placing these in minority communities or that it's a psyop to cause unrest. The Twitter account, Son of Baldwin, otherwise known as author Robert Jones Jr., was the first major voice to promote the theory that police are planting fireworks, and said that the fireworks are means to create confusion and, quote, desensitization is a means to get us so used to the sound of firecrackers and other fireworks that when they start using their real artillery on us, we won't know the difference. It's meant to sound like a war zone because a war zone is what it's about to become. This has been retweeted over 16,000 times, and the idea that fireworks are being planted by police made its way through left-wing circles. So, what are the facts? Let's start with the idea that this is a psyop because this does have some historical context. In her book Republic of Lies, author Anna Merlin devotes a chapter, titled None of This is Crazy, to conspiracy in the black community in America and the sad truth that distrust of authority figures is rooted in fact. Look at the Tuskegee experiment. Black men were told they were receiving free health care when in fact they were being infected with syphilis for the purpose of studying the disease. Or, speaking of protests, look at COINTELPRO, where the FBI covertly, and in some cases illegally, infiltrated civil rights groups with the intent to arrest members and sow discord. So there is a paranoia in the black community that is not entirely unfounded. Patricia Turner, professor of African American Studies at UCLA, compares the current fireworks scare to the theory that the government pushed crack into black neighborhoods in the 80s. And while that turned out to not be true, Rolling Stone writer Andrea Marks writes, quote, of course, even if the CIA did not traffic crack into black neighborhoods, doesn't mean that law enforcement agencies didn't take advantage of the crisis to criminalize drug users and over-police black neighborhoods as a part of the so-called war on drugs. So this conspiracy, and for those who are pushing it, this did not happen in a vacuum. It stems from a long line of actual wrongs and earned distrust. However, just because something was true in the past does not make it true in the moment. And there is a far more mundane explanation for the fireworks. It's a mix of boredom, summer, and canceled fireworks shows. Julie Heckman of the American Pyrotechnics Association points out that people have been cooped up for months and missed out on many celebrations like graduation. Plus, many fireworks displays have been canceled. People seem to want to go celebrate something and just entertain themselves. NPR interviewed a fireworks dealer, and he says that his demand for consumer fireworks has gone way up. And this seems to be the case all over the country. Independent fireworks stores are seeing their best sales in years, and Heckman says that consumer fireworks sales are, quote, through the roof. She also tries to dispel the idea that professional-grade fireworks are going off in cities. She said that most of the fireworks going off are going off at 200 feet in the air tops, while professional-grade fireworks go off at 300 to 600 feet in the air. Not saying that no one is getting black market professional grade fireworks, but majority of them are made for consumers. But Liz, you say, what about places like Boston and New York where you can't legally buy fireworks? Well, not to write that off completely, but we live in New Hampshire and we know how many Massachusetts residents come up here to buy fireworks, and the same is true for other states. As for the police, they are responding to complaints, but it seems like the main concern right now is the possibility that people might be setting off professional-grade fireworks, and there's no real evidence that they're giving people fireworks. This seems to be a case of tensions understandably running high, and some people connecting two concurrent events. Still, it's good to look at why Black Americans are suspicious because this comes from a history of abuse, and in the moment, one can see how someone might come to this conclusion. In fact, part of being a good critical thinker is looking at the context in addition to looking at the evidence. Thank you for watching, and as always, look for the sources in the comments. And if you want to do some research, you can use our EBSCO database available through the library's website. See you next week.